Hello my Flosstube friends, my name is Laura and this is Stitching by the Shore, a channel all about cross stitch with a little bit of paper crafting thrown in too. Now this is a Flosstube extra, as you can tell by the title. If you are brand new, I do my videos, my regular weekly Flosstube videos, I film them on Fridays, and most of the time they come out either Friday early afternoon up into the early evening, just depending on uploading. So if you'd like to see the regular what am I stitching and all of that other fun stuff, then check me out on Friday videos. But if you would like to see a flip through, that's what this video is. I received my Autumn 2025 Just Cross Stitch magazine, and you know how much I enjoy doing the flip throughs with you and chatting about what's in the magazines. So I thought, let's go. It's a very dreary, cloudy, yucky sort of day here today. And I thought, well, let's brighten up the afternoon by talking about cross stitch, because what could make the afternoon any better than talking cross stitch with my friends? So I am so glad you're here, and I hope you are inspired by some of the fabulous designs that these designers have created. I found that there was a good mix between kind of your traditional, like this is more of a samplery sort of, along with some cutesy patterns. There's some that are completely different type of ways of finishing it. There's the perforated paper has been used in quite a few of some of these patterns, so that's kind of fun to see, and you can switch up however you would like to do some of that. So I thought there was a really good mix of things in here. And as a standpoint of doing a flip through, or for you visually seeing the magazine in person, they did a great job showing each of the designs. There's only one design that I need to show you a picture on the iPad because it's smaller and also kind of encroaches with the pattern. Otherwise, they're large, full pictures, and so that's a lot of fun because this way we get to see them in all of their glory. Now, having said that, if you've never seen one of my flip throughs before, I generally will talk about the patterns a little bit more than just title, designer, and maybe size. I like to go really in depth and say, if I was stitching this particular pattern, how would I go about it? What would I do? And I think if you know me by now, that you do know that I do change things fairly extensively. It is never, ever a criticism of the designer. I think they are brilliant and I can't do what they do. So I would never even attempt to criticize a finished design because I have full respect for their vision and their designs. When I change colors of fabrics or flosses, or maybe I take out parts or do things, it is just because in my aesthetic, it's a little bit different. But I am very grateful for all of their time and effort and talent that they do to create these. So I want to make sure you know that there is never, ever a criticism of a designer here. All right, so that's what the cover looks like, and we will address that one as we get to it. But let's jump right in. I actually have my notes right in front of me today. I remember in the flip through for the Halloween issue, it was a multiple page notes, so I had to do it somewhat differently. There are 23 different projects here, although depending on how we tackle some of them, we certainly could have more finishes than that. Okay, so this first one is called Falling Leaves Sampler, so let me bring it right up to you, and it is from Elizabeth Spurlock from Saving Grace's Fine Needle Arts. Let me tilt it a bit so you can see it straight. And it is encompassing all of the beautiful fall colors. If you wanted to change it up, one of the first things I thought of was how cool would it be if you did, say, that just the image bands without the words. And I don't know how long you'd have to make it, but I was just watching Helen D, and she had shown a spool finish of one of her designs. How cool would it be? You probably wouldn't even have to do the full length, right? Just measure, depending on how tall your spool was, measure how much you would need to go around the back. And how cool would it be to alternate and just have all of these different bands, one on top of the other, and have a really beautiful spool that you could put in and among all of your other pieces. And generally the spools, if they are the darker colors, that would mimic kind of that. That was the first thing I thought of, and I think it would be really, really neat. You could also, maybe if it's shorter, do a drum of sorts as well, again with just the bands if you didn't want to do the words. And I do like it in the neutral fabric. I think I would keep this one in the neutral fabric if I was to stitch it. So some fun ideas and options there. And I mean, think about, I imagine, how large is this one? It is 111 by 111. I mean, depending on the width of your spool, obviously changes how wide you would need it to be. But you could probably have something like that done, stitched on a fairly quick basis if you wanted to. All right, so this next one here, and we take it, I put down who designed it on there, on Post-it notes when they're up in the front like this, so that I can tell you without having to switch pages. This one is called Bittersweet and Berries, and it is designed by Linda Jean Jenkins. And you just have some beautiful kind of, to me, they're almost a retro vibe of leaves, and then you have some berries, and these are, I don't know if those would necessarily be kind of more flowery buds or acorny looks. You could change things up if you wanted to. I could see this one on a very pale green. I feel like some of these colors would really pop on that, doing it on that. Now, the one thing I did notice, it's mostly charted in DMC, although these berries are charted in a variegated floss. I looked really close and I really couldn't see a difference. So if you wanted to completely kit this up with DMC, you could easily pick your own. The other thing you could do is to pick your own colors and combos with the leaves. If you liked maybe one, there's 3 different combos here. Maybe you really like the two different ones, and you can just rotate that way as well. So there are a few different options you could do with this and ways you could stitch it. Alrighty, next. Here we go. Now, I want to say it might be the next 3 that are done potentially, at least the next 2 I know, I'm pretty sure are done on perforated paper, which is really kind of neat. I like how, I want to say they embraced perforated paper in the Halloween issue as well. So it's kind of fun to kind of embrace different mediums as well. This is designed by, oh, it's right behind me, so I don't need to look. It is designed by Karen Bowen of KEB, let me Studio Design. So I'm going to tilt my magazine just a little bit so you can see this adorable, it's called Scarecrow's Barnyard, and you can tell why. Now, she has used perforated paper, she's used beads, and then she's used, so she's got Mill Hill seed beads, antique seed beads, frosted seed beads, as well as DMC. Now, you could obviously, if you didn't have perforated paper, or, you know, maybe, I guess there's debates, right, about perforated paper, whether people like it or not. So if you are not a fan, or maybe you couldn't get it, or you wanted to stitch from stash, you could certainly do this one on a fabric. I think that would be a lot of fun. Maybe keep it as a neutral fabric. Those colors certainly look great on that. Maybe you want to change it to, generally a lot of these are outdoor scenes, and so you're going to see me say a lot blues and greens, because I feel like that gives an outdoor sort of feeling, and this certainly does as well. If you were uncomfortable with beads, you could certainly stitch it without the beads. You know, basically just do those colors as something else. I think what would be really, really cool too is you could also break some of these parts off. If you wanted, say you have Halloween trees, or you wanted some little tiny smalls that you wanted to hang, like I have a tabletop tree, and so I'm always looking for small little pieces that can go on that versus a large tree. And you could keep the perforated paper or fabric, and you could keep the beads or not. But this pumpkin, especially with the crow on top, how adorable is that? The scarecrow, super cute. If you wanted to take out the borders and maybe these top 2 parts, you could stitch the corn, the scarecrow, and the pumpkin with the crow, and that would also look great. So this pattern gives you so many options and so many ways you could tackle it. So it's fantastic in that way, and gives you just a bunch of little elements that you can play with. So that's so much fun. There we go. That would be really cute as stitching for my pumpkin birthday stitch along if you're joining in on that. You could even do it almost, I wonder if you were a bead person, I wonder if you could do it all as beads. I don't know. Karen, would that work? All right, so this next one here also embraces perforated paper. And again, another great idea. This is called Fall Blocks. Oops, and I didn't write a note for myself. The design is by Frony Ritter of Frony Ritter Designs. So let me come on up for it. All of these pieces are stitched on perforated paper. Now they are full coverage, and then the perforated paper is cut to have one little border outline. So it's funny because when I first looked at it, it almost looked like a beaded outline, but it's not. It's the way the perforated paper works. Now, I think this is really cool. Like this, you could create something like this as like a maybe on your mantle or somewhere. If you wanted like a little bit of a kind of section, and you could throw in, maybe you have some more of these pumpkins and you can throw them about with leaves and so on and so forth. And then you can obviously, you could not have to, might not want to stack them. You could put them and maybe have them a single row flat if you wanted to, and then have some of these things on either side. Having said that, these can also be tackled with fabric, and you could do it again singly like this if you wanted to. Maybe make a banner of sorts. Is that, I'm looking at my notes, yes. So you could do a banner, and you could do you could keep them single and do single blocks. Or how about you take your fabric and maybe you decide my favorite might be the leaves, or maybe I want leaves on one side and apples on the other, and you can stitch them completely, one in each after the other, right next to each other in a row, 4 across, and then maybe some of these elements on either side. And then you can have just a long piece like that you can frame, you can flat fold, there's all sorts of different things you could do with it that way. And how fun, again, if you want some little ornaments, these are cute little elements that you could stitch on your own, put on a tabletop tree, make little ornaments either with perforated paper or fabric, and I think that would work really nicely as well. And again, because you could find little scraps, because these are small, and okay, you'll have a little bit of fabric showing, so maybe you'd want something that would be a little bit darker or vintagey or whatever, but you really wouldn't need much, and because it's full coverage, it would go really fast. So a lot of choices with that one as well. All right, so this next one here is called Autumn Ablaze, and it is designed by Lucy Lowe of Lucy Lowe Designs. And it is, I've noticed since I've started doing these, because I look at them much closer than when I wasn't doing flip throughs, that the magazine generally has at least one full coverage in it. And with the seasonal ones, I can't remember. I feel like even with some of the holiday ones, they do have things that are fairly intensive full coverage wise. This one here is a beautiful fall scene, so it is full coverage. The fabric you choose below is really up to you because you're covering it all up. And I noticed that they do like to just do no mats or anything. They generally just like to do a simple frame, which of course you don't want to take away from your beautiful work right up to the stitching. There is some confetti because obviously if you look, you've got some different changes of colors, but then you also have big blocks of color. So there is a mix of confetti with blocks on this one if you were concerned about the full coverage, but it certainly is beautiful. I am starting a ginormous autumn piece, so I will not full coverage, so I'm not stitching this, but if you do so, please send me pictures. I would love to see it. I think it's going to be gorgeous in person. And then maybe one day, when, I'm very tired from that other piece, I might jump on this one. Okay, so this is the one that I need to show you the picture of. This is called Oak Tree Treasures. Here we go. And the design is by Sarah Gilbert of Mod Cross Patterns. And you have 2 different designs. You have the acorn and you have the leaf. And very cool here. These were stitched, again, on perforated paper. So this might be the third and last of the perforated. I can't remember. I'm not going to say now. But these were done on perforated paper. Again, they're full coverage stitching, and then you just cut slightly around the edges. How cool is this as a really lovely kind of bannerish stuff? They show it. I really like the twine and the really small clothespins. They do show it in front of like a dough bowl that's been filled with acorns. Obviously, it's a smaller one because there's only the 4 pieces. What I thought would be kind of neat, say the sky is the limit for colors on this. You could do, let's say we're going to pick the leaves for a minute. I could do these in we have kind of that orange and yellow. How about shades of red or 2 different shades of green? Think about all of the different autumn color shades, or like a brown and a red, and you could stitch a whole slew of these and then have a huge kind of, you know, maybe more of a mantle sort of banner, or they can be stitched singly and then kind of stitch, I don't know, maybe they can be propped up in a dough bowl of acorns, or again, pick these acorns here and maybe stitch them in different shades of brown if you wanted to throw in a brown where the green is, say. So many options. Your imagination is really the only limit. And again, they can be bannered, they can be individually done. You could certainly do them too if you wanted to stitch these on fabric. If you don't have perforated paper, again, maybe just have it a really tight, you know, I'd probably, rather than having it open like that, like as the shape, maybe make it a really tight shape and maybe mat it with another something behind it, and then you can have a row of leaves or acorns or a combination of them maybe hanging down from, you know, whether it is a mantle, or maybe you have like the top of a hutch area or a shelf, lots of different ways that you could tackle it and things you could do with that. So again, really open-ended, lots of ideas. Okay, so this next one here is called Autumn Squared and is designed by Amanda Berry of Cobweb and Rose. So that's what it is up close. Very cute. For me, I think I don't stitch a lot on black fabric, although I'm not opposed to it. I would probably choose, I might go neutral on this one. I was really in my mind embracing vintage country mocha with this issue, which I know if you follow me, I do some, but I don't do a lot of that. But I could really see a lot of these with it. You could also do kind of a blue or a green, depending on what kind of vibe or picture you wanted. Easy enough to change if you wanted a certain color scheme. You could certainly change, for example, the color scheme in the sweater. You can do this part. Any of these could be done alone or on their own, or maybe a two-part, or however you wanted to do it. If you wanted just autumn and this picture, you could do that as well. So there's quite a few ways that you could tackle this one if you wanted to take it a little bit out of just the full kind of square piece. All right, so this next one here is called Woolly Stitches and is designed by Nicoletta Ferrato of Nikki's Creations. I might just do the companies rather than, because I get worried that I'm saying the names wrong. How cute is that? So we have a couple of different sheep here with different stitching elements with the spool and the scissors. It's the word autumn is back stitched with some French knots, and then we have the word stitches here. I was thinking I could just take out that word autumn and just keep it stitches. And yes, those are pumpkins and it's the pumpkin colors, but you could probably change it if you wanted to make them look more like tomatoes. You know how stitching with the red tomatoes and everything? That might be a cute idea. The other thing that I thought of, and I probably myself would change the color of the fabric, because you can see, if you look a little bit closer, you can see the sheep against here, but I'd want them to pop a little bit more. So if I wanted to do neutral, I would probably do maybe a slightly darker one so that this part would still show up, but their bodies would show up more. But how cute, singly, this sheep could be on that little, like put his little feet. All I'd have to do is move him over a little bit, just stitch this and have him standing on the spool. I think that would be super cute. Or you could take this little sheep and put him standing right on the scissors. That was the first thing that popped in my head, and I think those would be adorable. So some great options there with that one. This next one here is Nature's Journey, and this was the year-long piece from Sprouting Lupine, and this is the final section. I do have to say I was a little disappointed that they didn't just show the full reveal, because this is the fourth one, and so it would have been really pretty to see all four pieces and the full piece shown in all its stitching glory. I've said all the way through, I like this fabric color that they chose, and I probably would do something similar with that. I don't imagine I would change that up. So that's the last section. If you're working on it, I hope you're enjoying it. I think it's going to be beautiful as a full. All right, so this next one here is called Mini Sampler Series Autumn. So let me show you that, and that is designed by Curious Carrie Designs. Now this one too has been a 4-parter, so you can see what some of the other parts were. And I've said all year long that there's a couple ways I would tackle it. Most likely I would take out the alphabet, square off the bottom. And so all you'd have to do is just add a little bit extra with the stems on this one of the sunflowers. The other thing was I could see if you wanted to square it off rather than circle, all you'd have to do is extend this a little bit and then make the stems again a little bit more, and you'd have more of a shape like that. So either way, if you wanted to do it somewhat different than this, and myself, I would probably do a light blue if I was doing this. But it's been fun. It's been fun with the series and seeing all the different pieces. Very cute. Then we have the different sections inside. There's a section about Nellie's Needlers, volunteering with passion and purpose. That makes me smile a little bit because my grandmother was known as Nellie. And then there's this one there, fall focus, storage, about different types of ways to store your projects, like in different type of project bags and things like that. You know, then all the other pictures that highlights people and stores. And then we move on to this next one here. This one is called, what is it? Hope is the Thing with Feathers. And let me bring that right up to you. Can see, look at, I mean, see, isn't the picturing and the styling so beautiful? They've done a really great job with it, this issue. This is designed by Mojo Stitches. And so what she did, and she shows you, actually I can show you because there's no pattern here. This is the baby bib, the bib that was the design, and you can see that's the original. And she took all the inspiration to create that from that bib. And it's an unknown stitcher. We don't know who did that. So we are embracing the anonymous stitcher here. And she's really done a great job of honoring that piece there. And the color scheme is exact. Now, again, you can use your own kind of vibe with that. Maybe you need to or want to darken up some of the colors. Maybe you want to change the fabric a little bit. You know, if you do a lot of decor out and about, then maybe you want to change it slightly just to match your other decor. There's lots of different ways. The beautiful design is here for you and designed, and then you can kind of take those elements however you'd like to. It's a nice little, her inspiration, I really enjoyed reading that little bit about her inspiration. I generally do really like those. They're very thoughtful, and I like to get the mind of the designer and where they went with it and why they chose what they did and how they did. I find them interesting. I think they're a worthwhile, very quick read. This next one here is very cool. And you know me, I adore kind of out there fabrics, and I really feel like this one embraces that. So this design is called Fly Agaric. I guess that might be the actual type of mushroom, and it says field sketch. So this is designed from a field sketch of the mushroom, and I really adore how they chose this fabric. You could certainly go with, you could probably even do a purplish fabric, just not too dark, so that you would have this come out. But I thought, again, outdoor, you know, I think blues, you could actually probably, maybe not a super lime green, but you could probably, especially if it was a mottled green, that might be kind of cool as well, and that might pop. I really like how they finished it. They put it on kind of like a field journal. I could also see it if you wanted it on a book cover. Same idea, like if it was just a book that you weren't going to use as a journal or anything like that, you know, but you wanted it maybe to stand on a shelf. And when I thought that idea, then I also was thinking about Twitchy Stitcher, Karen. In her most recent video, she finished a piece on the inside of a book, like an open book, and then created little elements and almost shadow boxed it, is what it reminded me of. And so I would encourage you to check out Karen. Oh, I didn't leave myself any pen to make notes. Hopefully I will remember. Karen is the Twitchy Stitcher. It was her most recent video, so that would probably be her August wrap up, I guess. And I thought the finish, that finish made me think of this, and I think this treatment of that finish would look great there. If you wanted almost like a, not really a diorama, but just shadow box look and effect, and it really was cool. And I think this would really work for that. And that would be a very different sort of finish if you wanted to do something a little different with it. This next one is called Fox in the Hollow. So let me bring that up. And this is designed by Stitch Crypt. And I know a lot of people are stitching foxes for September. So look at this. She heard you and she created a fox for you. And this is one of those, I think the fox alone, if you wanted to do something a little bit smaller, would be fabulous. I think the fox looks fantastic and could go either way, either with all of the elements around it or just by itself. So if you wanted a quicker stitch, I think that would work really well. I think I would do maybe a green, or it depends. If I was doing the fox alone, I would do a floss toss of the colors and see what might work for that, or a pale blue, or even a vintagey color might work well too. But you are all set if you'd like to join along with the stitch along with the foxes this September. All right, next one here. I'm trying not to skip any pages. This next one is called Birds in Fall. Oh, I put birds in full, and it didn't make a lot of sense in my notes there. Let me bring this up. And this is designed by Stitchy Princess. And I just think those birds are lovely. And immediately I said, oh, I probably wouldn't stitch the border because I am on the fence on borders. Sometimes I love stitching them, sometimes not. And I could easily see how cute would each of these be stitched on their own, including this. I really like the whimsical kind of way the leaves, I know they're not totally whimsical, but they look like it to me when I look at them quick. And I think just the bird on the branch with the leaves, each one separately, I think that would be really, really cool. I think I could also see stitching this on a blue. But again, because that way I'm bringing out each bird. But lots of fun goodness with this one, depending on what you wanted to do. Alrighty, next one here. This one stumped me a little bit. I think I might keep this one as is. I'm not sure what I would do. It's called Excuse Me and is designed by Tranquility Designs, and it is super cute. It says, excuse me, the bird feeder is empty, right? Yeah. And if you've ever had bird feeders, you've probably had the squirrels that, quite frankly, this is as cheeky as they like to get, right? And I like to say, basically, feed me because your bird feeder's empty. I was looking at it and looking at it, and I'm not sure. I really like how it's finished like this, fully finished. And even the color scheme, I think I would keep it a very light sort of neutral type of. This one happens to be, it's a Charles Craft hand-dyed tan by the designer. But that would be easy to find something kind of light like that. So it was funny. In my notes, I just put not sure. I think the way it works, I'm not sure I would change anything on that. All right, this next one, very cool. I would not be able to fully finish it as is, but I have ideas if I'd like to stitch it. This is the Gratitude Pumpkin is what it's called, and is designed by Kim Beamish. And you're not going to see here, but it has 4 different words. There's 4 sides of the pumpkin. I think it's gratitude, let me see, joyful, blessed, grateful, and thankful. And so you stitch, and then you can just, whenever you periodically rotate it so you can see a different word. There are Smyrna crosses and I think rice stitch on the top and the bottom. So what are my thoughts? Because I'm not a sewer of this type, and even if the directions are, I can't even tell if they're easy or not, because I am not talented in that fact. So what would I do if I want to stitch this? I do like it in this color, and so I do think I would keep it that kind of color, or maybe something a little bit paler, because this is obviously a pumpkin. So maybe if I'm not stitching it and finishing it as a pumpkin, I wouldn't go maybe as dark, but I think I do like it in this. You could certainly do whatever you wanted. What I thought would be kind of cool is to take this set of panels right here and do a small little leaner, or very cool, panel, word, panel, word, panel, word, panel, word, and do a very long, tall, skinny piece that again, could be some sort of leaner flat fold, however you wanted to tuck in, which would be completely different shape and design than probably a lot of your finishes. And isn't that one of the fun ways of displaying your items when things are not all exactly the same? We want them different heights, widths, types, and so it makes your display that much more interesting. So I thought that would be kind of cool. And then you could, even if it's long and tall, maybe you have some sort of greenery coming up that you could just easily, gently place on it, type of thing. And if you did not want to do the specialty stitches, you could certainly just do, I want to say, I don't know if it encompasses 2 rows. 1, 2, it encompasses 3 rows. So couldn't you just do X's 3 times, then change color, and then change color? So I think there's, if you're like me and you're saying, okay, I can't do this, I think there's a way to be able to stitch this and have a really cool finish anyway. So don't give up on some of these if you are like me and say, that's definitely not happening. I'd have to find a friend to sew it all up for me. But if I wanted to do it a slightly different way, I think it's there. So super excited to do that one. All right, so let me see. Yes, this is the next one. Season of Thanks. Is this our cover piece? Let me double check. Yes, it is. So this is our beautiful cover piece. This is designed by Wrought Iron Stitching. Let me tilt it a little bit for you so you can see it straight. With this one, I could see if you didn't want to do the full piece, and I think the full piece is really lovely, and it would be a simple kind of piece that's not like a big giant sampler-esque sort of thing, but if you wanted something smaller, I could easily see doing just the image. And I think I might even do, you could do with or without the Season of Thanks, right? So you could kind of, if you wanted a border, you could do just the inner border if you wanted to. If you wanted to do the outer border, you just kind of check the design and it would go up here as well. Or you could just do the images on their own without words, borders, or anything. And I think that would be a lot of fun too. So you have a lot of different ways that you could tackle this one. And it's very pretty, definitely worthy of the cover. All right, so this next one here is really interesting. It's kind of full coverage, and you're saying kind of full coverage. Let me show you. It's called Bounty and Blessings, and it's designed by Saving Grace's Fine Needle Arts. So this section right here is full coverage, and then here this is sort of full. This is full coverage, but then you've got openings and pieces, and you have openings and pieces all around here. I definitely think that you would want to choose your fabric well. This is kind of a, what did they call it? This is a khaki. I think I might lean just a tiny bit, and not into green, but a tiny bit more into the green family. Everything is backstitched, so you don't have to worry about whether or not your flosses will kind of ghost into it. That's just me, though, that I would lean into that a little bit more. I will say this one is, where am I? It's very backstitch heavy. So depending on whether you love or don't love backstitch, that may change your decision. And I really do think it needs it. I think this would be one of those that would be so cool if you stitched it, to take a picture pre-backstitch, if you did it all at the end. I don't know. This might be one where you'd want to do as you're going along. But if you did, could you imagine the difference between pre and post if you didn't and just did all the backstitch at the end? I think it would be so cool and so amazing to see the differences. All right, so this next one is called Thankful Turkey and is designed by Jennifer J. Redmond. Let me tilt him here. They like to tilt things, so I'm going to tilt this for you. And here we have this cute little turkey right here. I think I would stitch him probably on a blue or a green. I could see with or without the words, and I might take out a couple of these stray and just maybe the berries, but then cut it there and go with that. Blue or a green, just for me, again, my own purposes, I think I would do. It is backstitch heavy. However, that also means everything is backstitched, so whatever you chose for a color of fabric would work fine because your backstitch would kind of break it up there. So there's a couple different ways and options you can do that one. All right, this next one here. This one's super cute. This is called Pilgrim Pear, and it is designed by December Stitches. And that's what it looks like right there. Now, you know what I'm going to say? Again, I would probably like a blue or a green, very pale. I mean, nothing that's going to be out there. kind of thing. Although I do like this one. I could definitely see like a vintage country or some sort of, you know, kind of design. What's this one? This is Coffee Jobelin from Witchold. And I myself most likely would not stitch the border, but that's just me. I think for me, I would take that out. That kind of reminds me of kind of the, they're usually backstitched borders, you know, the borders of some of the Prairie Schooler Santas. And for me, to finish it, I feel like I would get it wonky. And so that would be partly on me and my finishing techniques. So I would take out the border. The other thing was, if I wanted to make it a little bit skinnier, I think it would be very cute to take out the corn and just have the two of them as an option as well. And I'm looking at it, the corn is kind of in the background. Do you see? It stops there. And then here you have her, she's holding, I think that's a turkey. And the corn and the stalks are behind her. So that would be very easy to take out if you wanted to. And in fact, it's not covering her hair or face at all. So you have a couple different options depending if you wanted to play around with the size of this piece. But it is very cute. All right, we have 3 more to go. We're almost there. This next one, not a lot to say, but I do have ideas about sparkle. I feel like this one screams sparkle for me. This is called We Come in Peace, and it is designed by Stitch X Love. One of 2 ways. I don't think I would do both because I think that would be too much opal fabric so that they are in space somewhere. Or and again, I think the black works. I could see doing a deep, deep blue because that would be a little bit easier for me. And then doing metallic, some sort of metallic sparkle. Or do we have opal fabric? Can you get glow in the dark in other colors besides white? If you could get a glow in the dark that way, that would be kind of cool too. So there are some different ways that you could tackle this. And they did say customize it for the size of your family. So depending on who is in your family, you can kind of customize this a little bit too. But I would say have fun with sparkle on that one. I think it just screams sparkle to me. Now, remember in each of the issues of the seasons, they have a Halloween stitch and a Christmas stitch, and that's how they finish off each issue. So this one right here is the Halloween stitch. It is Jack Takes Flight, and it is from X Free Stitch is the designer. So let me show you right there. So we have a jack-o'-lantern kind of balloon. Now, I really do enjoy this purplish background fabric. And, you know, there's purple in here, so I can see it really goes. If you didn't want a full purple background, I could see easily maybe a gray, or, you know, maybe something that's not as purpley, but a little bit grayer. Or you could even go a different route altogether color-wise if you wanted to. This one is very backstitch heavy. Again, I think it needs it to really make it pop, but just be aware of that as you're stitching it. It's very cute, very fun. And then our very last piece in this issue is the Christmas stitch. And this is actually number 1. They say, look in the Christmas issue for this version, a second companion piece to this. This is what I really should say. It's called A Folkmas Holiday number 1 and is designed by Wrought Iron Stitching. So there will be a number 2 apparently in the Christmas issue. So we'll keep our eyes out for that. And so how very cool. There's lots of different elements. You could easily pick some of your favorite elements and make it smaller if you wanted to. It is currently 75 high and 35 wide. If you wanted to make it more like a 35 by 35 or something closer, easily done. Again, with the black fabric, I don't know if I would go with that. I would probably pick maybe a pale version of one of these colors. I do a floss toss. I could also see like a nice version of one of the colors with some opal. I think that would be a lot of fun. Or maybe you keep it and throw in some metallic fabric, some flosses somewhere. I think there's a lot of fun different things you could do with this one. I think pale green might be the first floss toss I would try, but you have lots of options. And it would also depend, maybe if you take off some, what colors are showing and predominant. That would change your fabric choice there. So there we go. That is the last pattern in here. So there's 23 different individual pieces. like I said, and but way more than that if you wanted to start breaking things apart. So that is the Just Cross Stitch Autumn 2025 magazine. Now it's your turn. If you're here, what's your favorite? What are you stitching? What makes you say, I want to get out my flosses right away and start stitching this? I would love to know your thoughts on that. So let me know down below in the comments. And thank you so much for being here and doing this flip through with me. And until next time, happy stitching.